And I am really excited about today's discussion, which is going to be about time banking and service exchange. But as usual, it'll probably be much broader than that. And I'm charged up to welcome Mandy Arnold to the stage. And Mandy is with Partners in Care. And Mandy, welcome.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. I'm excited to have a conversation about time banking and service exchange and learn about Partners in Care. And just so you know, here, folks, I'm going to show you the results of that little poll on how familiar people are with time banking and service exchange. It's right down the middle, 50-50. And that's pretty good because there's not many topics that we discuss here on these discussions where half the audience doesn't know what we're talking about. And so this is not surprising, by the way, but it's also this should be a pretty engaging and informative discussion. But before we dive into that, Mandy, let's get to know you a little bit better. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to be the CEO of Partners in Care.
Well, thank you, Steve. So basically, I'm a mother of one amazing young man. I'm a wife for over 30 years, and I'm a person with a passion, always have been and always have had a passion for seniors. And, taking care of them, how they're, looked at, how they're respected. I have a dual master's degree, a master's in healthcare administration, a master's in business, as well as a Juris Doctorate degree in executive law. And basically all of those degrees were simply just so I could do my job better, right? Not really to focus on any one thing, but just to be able to make sure that I could always do my job better. But, very long story short, started out, after many years of working, went into nursing, wanted to be a nurse to take care of what I called then was old people. Now we know we don't say that, right? It's seniors or it's older adults is basically. And when I got into nursing, I quickly realized that we don't, for the most part, take real good care of our nurses, right? I mean, our older adults in our nursing homes and different environments like that. So that's what led me on to my first master's, which was healthcare administration. Because then I said, as one nurse to another nurse, if I ask you to be nice to the person, the patient, you're going to tell me to fly a kite and mind my business. But as the administrator, if I asked you to be nice, then you needed to be nice. So that's a whole long story short, more information than most people need. But what then happened is my son decided he wanted to go into the military to become a Marine. And if anyone knows me personally, they know that I'm obsessed with this one human being, right? So I needed a cervical fusion. So I decided at that time when he went into boot camp, stop working and have surgery. And then wherever they placed him was where I was going to go, right? So if they put him in California, as a nurse, I could have gone to work anywhere. So I was going to California, right? So anyway, long story short, they didn't place him. They placed him in North Carolina. And I met with a friend who wound up being a board member, a current board member of Partners in Care. And after a long conversation, when I went and said, I want to go back to work, but I want to make a difference, she said, Mandy, I know the perfect role for you. This individual is a founder. She's looking to replace herself. She introduced me to Barbara. Barbara and I met. We sat and cried for about 3 hours of the amazing things that Partners in Care did. I volunteered for a few months to see if it was a place where I wanted to be. And then I actually shadowed her for 1 year before taking over the organization.
Wow. Well, I know Barbara and Maureen and the founders, and I've been a fan of Partners in Care for many years, and they're really lucky to have somebody with your passion and training. And I think you're the first nurse that I've met that also has a law degree. That's pretty impressive. And I'm dropping the Partners in Care website into chat, and I'm just gonna before we dive in to time banking, I've got the Partners in Care website up on the screen for everybody to see here. And screaming from the headlines here is neighbors helping neighbors. That is the overall concept. Your organization has 2,600 members and have exchanged 800,000 hours of service. And you're based in Maryland, and you've got locations throughout the state. And one of the things that we I just want to address it because it came up on one of our previous discussions with the Secretary of Aging in Rona Kramer in Maryland. I understand that in addition to Service Exchange, you are one of the Community for Life vendors for the
Provider.
state.
Yeah.
Since we're going to dive into time banking, can you tell our audience, especially the Marylanders, a little bit about that program?
Sure. So Community for Life, actually, Partners in Care heard about it about probably 3 or 4 years prior to us actually becoming a provider. Literally, they came to us, one of their original directors, I would say, came to us to really discuss how we do what we do, right? Because the model and the services are almost identical, right? So the difference is one's guaranteed and one's not in our case. So I'm speaking on behalf of Partners in Care only. So the secretary, she came up with this model, and she, thought it was very good for the middle income individuals, right? So that's the main, the main focus is for middle income. And why Partners in Care joined in as a partner is it's really, we do that service anyway, right? So we're in it, we serve that clientele. We offer service, transportation. We offer handyman services, which is what they call home maintenance. And we offer member care services, which Community for Life calls service navigation. And in this role, and in a nonprofit, that anybody that knows or is familiar with nonprofits, very, very difficult to find funding, especially for seniors. It's just not there, right? So my thought process was, we do this, and this could be one of those sustainable programs that could help pay for. So we offer these services, it's guaranteed services, but it's for the individuals who can afford to pay. But we still need to, in order to be able to sustain, be able to provide those services with volunteers. And then I've had feedback from people saying, well, why would a volunteer want to, transport someone or whatever it is that's paying? Well, if they want to be able to continue our model and help us to be able to help the individuals who can't pay, I need them.
Yep. I love it. When I saw that you all were a partner, it really made a lot of sense, is that this is an opportunity to diversify your portfolio and be able to continue what you're doing. Okay. I know we got a question about the Community for Life, but let's talk about time banking, and I promise we'll be, I know we're going to be all over this place. So just advance warning to everybody in the audience. And I told Mandy this as well. I'm a huge fan of time banking and Service Exchange. I've done a bunch of research and tried to get to initiate a more robust time banking platform in my own community. And I've been to the National Time Banking Conference, and over the years, I've never seen a better execution than Partners in Care. And hats off to you all for this.
But
So,
also tell them, Steve, that what my response was, is that you know much more than I knew.
well, the thing that you know is how your organization is using this model. And so let's start there with Partners in Care in Maryland. You use the term time banking and service exchange together, which I think is brilliant. But tell us how this works. So from both ends of the spectrum, from the volunteer and the care and the recipient.
Okay, so one thing, if anyone's not familiar with Partners in Care, our mission is to be able to support the independence of older adults through our unique culture of service exchange and time banking, allowing them to age in place with dignity and respect, but be an active part of their community, right? So the main thing here is, and what I've learned as I've done, with little research that I have done on time banking, is the organizations that offer time banking, everyone does it a little bit different, right? So in our case, the concept and the model was come up with so that truly the senior population that we serve, when Barbara, her sister Maureen, and Sandy was coming up with this model, it was, they knew, and they were discussing it about their parents, that this generation normally and typically do not want to ask for handouts. They don't like to ask for help, right? So the exchange and the time banking allows them to do their part, right? So we tap into everyone's gifts and talents where, they do their part. They might not be able to drive anymore, but they can make friendly phone calls. They can make friendly, write the birthday cards for the month. So when they do call to ask for that ride, they don't feel like they're calling and asking for a handout, right? So, to me, I look at it as almost like the Jewish culture is what this is all about. It's tapping into everyone's gifts and talents and taking care of your own. So that's how we came, they came out with neighbors helping neighbors and supporting each other, right? So our volunteers, they volunteer to support, which is their passion too, is seniors, making a difference in the life of the senior. Well, then they're banking time, right, for when they need services, because you need to be 60 years or older to receive services from Partners in Care.
And a question that came in on LinkedIn, we have an audience on LinkedIn, was asking just that. It's sort of like, is this just for older people? And my response was, every program is different.
Right.
Your program, the recipient, sort of, you could compare this sort of to Social Security, is that, hey, this is here for you when you're over a certain age. And but if you all go to, and let me share this screen, if you all go to the website timebanks.org, you can find, and I hopefully y'all see that my screen there, timebanks.org. You can where are you at here? You can find different time banks across the country, and what you will see is that there's a lot of different approaches. While there are some time banks that are focused on older adults receiving care, there are many that support people with disabilities or all ages. So, okay, this is great. So let's sort of look at it in terms of two types of individuals that come to Partners in Care. And let's first start with, let's start with the care recipient. Let's start with somebody who has not volunteered, okay, yet. They heard that there's this great program in their community that can provide them with support, and they pick up the phone and they give you a call. How do you get them involved with the organization?
So we have a process and a system, right? So no matter how you come into the organization, one, normally as a volunteer, you're doing it as through an in-person orientation, right? In that process, everyone goes through some form of a background check because we're dealing with senior population. So we make sure that we vet everyone, and then they get entered into our system. They fill out an application. It talks about what are they going to do as their give back? Where are they going to volunteer? What is their participation going to be? And we have, loads of different ways that they can give back. And we highlight, we focus on what is it that their gifts and talents are so that they can give back to the organization. If someone doesn't know, then we might help them out with, a further conversation. But we can always find something, right? So they join up, they're going to be a volunteer, and then they're going to do multiple different things. With Partners in Care, you can volunteer in the office, you can volunteer doing any type of services, member care services with how you support the member. You can do administrative work to support the organization. And if anyone isn't aware, we have boutiques, right? So we have a boutique in Anne Arundel County, and we have a boutique in Frederick County. Those are both considered social enterprises. All of the profits from those two stores are meant to give back to the organization to support the seniors and our programs. But when you volunteer in the stores, so people love to help in retail. They love to go through stuff, all of that. So that's their give back, right? So their banking time, they're using it. The other part is the members that we have that need services, right? So, and I know I was talking with you a little bit about that, Steve, in the beginning before we started, is every single member from the start of Partners in Care was asked when they joined how they would participate. What is their exchange? What is their time banking give back kind of a thing, right? So they've all done it, but along the way, the organization itself hasn't been real good at holding people accountable to give back, right? So with that said, it just happened recently within the last, 18 months that we were turned down for a grant because we were said that our members don't necessarily have a vested interest.
Ooh.
So, but Barbara's mentality and thought process on that was not to go away from our mission, but we have so many volunteers that say they don't need services. They don't want to get back. Give my time to them. And that's great. And we're right. But our mission is not only to build community, but keep people active and healthy. And we all know if anybody deals with seniors, that 80% of the root cause of seniors as we age our illnesses is because of inactivity.
Yeah, not having a purpose. And this gives
them that purpose. So we're going to now go back to sending a letter out to all of our members saying, remember our mission, remember what this is. We're here to help each other. But, this model, this time banking service exchange model is so needed, right, across the country, because not only are you doing whatever your mission is, providing that individual service, but you are building community.
Yep.
And we lack community everywhere.
I couldn't agree more. And listen, I'm going to give you a break because I want to share a video. A question came in. Did I miss something? What is time banking? And you just heard an explanation on how Partners in Care does time banking. I'll tell you a great way that it was explained to me was, let's say that I like baking, okay? And I bake a cake and it takes me, somebody needs a cake for their birthday and I bake a cake and that takes me 1 hour to bake that cake. I earned 1 credit by baking that cake that goes into the time bank. Now, 6 months, 6 years down the road, my toilet doesn't work. And I go to the members and I say, geez, I wish, is there anybody there that could come and look at my toilet? And a guy comes and he takes an hour to fix my toilet and he earns 1 credit. And the beauty of this platform is that it's equality. Okay. Let's face it, in this world, who wins? The person with the biggest pile of money. In the time banking world, all of us are equal. Our time is valued at the exact same exchange rate, which means that a person in bed in a nursing home who can pick up the phone and call people for an hour is earning the same credit as I am working on somebody's toilet. Okay, so that's one example. But I want to share with you all a really cool video that I found from the World Economic Forum. The US is kind of behind in time banking. So this video will share with you what's going on worldwide. And you're going to be blown away when you sort of see some of the ways that some countries are utilizing this concept.
But real quick, Steve, before you hit that, so that's when I was saying originally that not every organization operates it. They tweak it a little bit.
Exactly.
Partners in Care does not do tit for tat. It's not hour to hour. As long as you are participating, you will receive.
Yeah, and I was just trying to create a simplistic
but that's
example.
how it is described, right?
Yeah,
you give an hour, you get an hour. But you're perfectly, and I say the same thing. Everybody's valued and equal is the same. Your hour and my hour is exactly the same. So I love it.
And there's in this video, there's a really cool approach to this that I had never thought about. But also, just folks, this video has only music. You have to read the screen, okay? So here we go. Let me share this with you. Pretty cool. And when I went to the Time Bank conference, I was blown away at how many government agencies are engaging in this concept. Can you imagine so right now, our Medicaid system for nursing care is basically an entitlement that we all receive if we don't have money. But you saw what was on that screen. It proposed that, hey, if you do 10,000 hours of caring, you automatically get a spot. And imagine what our world would be like if we did that in the United States. Yes, we might have other problems like shortages of beds, which we already have, but that's a tremendous amount of manpower being directed, and man and woman power being directed to take care of older adults. Yes, and I will share that video link in chat. I saw that there. Okay, let's see. So let's see. So Mandy, I'm going to get to some of the questions that we've got here, but any other sort of elements that you would like to share? Any sort of success stories or challenges that you've seen in your tenure there at Partners in Care, like somebody who was an active volunteer and really is able to cash in on the support that they gave for themselves?
So a couple of things. I just want to, I have some statistics to share with the audience that in fiscal year, we operate off of a fiscal year 22. So last year, our volunteers participated over 47,000 hours. Right? They drove. So our biggest program is transportation, right? So seniors, it's very hard for seniors to find transportation. They drove over 202,000 miles, and we performed with trips and tasks over 27,000. So we had 809 unique providers. So that's volunteers participating, doing their part. And we had 899 receivers, unique receivers year to date. So, and I'm saying these numbers because people are always just blown away at the impact, right? And I can't take credit, right, for this amazing model and how Barbara and her sister and Sandy built this. But I am honored and blessed with being able to grow it and to really try to share it with everyone. But just year to date, our volunteers have provided over 26,000 hours, drove over 108,000 miles, and have performed with trips and tasks over 12,000. We have this year 929 unique providers, so we've grown with more individuals participating to date, and 525 receivers. But with that said, it's just having a medical background, learning. It's just been proven for probably 100 years that people that are connected and affiliated with community-based organizations, they are healthier, right? And time banking's history and statistics have shown and stated that 85% of the people that are a partnership with a time banking say that they were able to meet more people. 80% say that they felt more part of a community. 74% says they have more friends, right? They've experienced a lift in their mood. It helps to reduce social isolation, right? So they felt, that they could ask and receive. They experience a reduced in loneliness, but they also say that their quality of life, their health and well-being has improved.
Yep.
So it's the time banking, my passion is seniors, and what Partners in Care does and how we do it, to me, is amazing. I think it should be the model that's used across Maryland. I think it's the model that should be used across the United States. That's my goal. I dream big. But anyway, in connection with time banking, no matter what your motto is and your mission is, it just brings people together. It values whatever you do as a professional, whatever your gift and talent is.
I love it. And I know I'm going to specifically get to some of the comments and questions, but I know I think Barbara Sullivan from the Village to Village Network said, hey, this sounds like a village. And you're right. Okay. Except there is, so what I want folks to think about, because, hey, look, if you go to timebanks.org and you don't see a time bank in your community, as Mandy sort of said, this is a different way of thinking. It's a different type of currency. Okay. So any volunteer organization, a village, a community ride organization, think about it. Okay, think about this. This is, I'm getting charged up. Okay. Most volunteer organizations, what do they do to support their volunteers? They have, at the end of the year, the big volunteer banquet. Okay. Well, what if you don't like being around a large group of people? What if you're on vacation that day? What if you just have dietary restraints and you can't go to a big banquet? Okay. You missed out on one of the benefits of being part of contributing to that organization. Now, imagine that community ride program had a time banking service exchange platform where the 40 hours that you spent driving people that year were banked. And let's say you didn't do anything for 15 years after that. And then your adult child is, helping you, flies in from California and, helping you because you had a fall. And, you mentioned that, hey, look, I've banked a bunch of hours with this ride program. You don't need to be driving me around anywhere. You can cash in those points. And so what I want folks to think about with this concept, if you're not in the neighborhood of Partners in Care or another time bank, is just think about this amongst the organizations that you're in. Think about it in your neighborhood. Like I said, walking your neighbor's dog, instead of them coming back from vacation and giving you some t-shirt, what if you created a little neighborhood time bank where, look, don't bring me anything from your vacation, but I earned 5 hours of credit. So I'm going to call on you to get those 5 hours back someday. And it might be helping me on my back deck. It might be, baking my kid a birthday cake. Think about it that way. I told you, Mandy, I'm gonna, I can,
Go for it,
I
Steve.
can go off.
Whatever, yeah, whatever works. I think it's great. And it is, because it is about building community, right? We all are struggling with it. We see it in the crime rates and stuff. I always talk about it is, when I was a kid growing up, I was more concerned with my neighbor seeing me do something wrong than the police, doing. It was about, you took care of your own. Everybody, they would take care of each other. They would make sure that they reprimanded you, whatever it was a connection in a community. We didn't have to lock our doors.
Yep. And when I went to the national conference, there are some at-risk youth programs that are out there across the nation that are using the same platform, that instead of a youth going to a detention, they earn they earn time banking credits. So let me get to some of the questions. Here's one that was pretty specific. I'm curious about this for your organization. How did COVID impact the running of your organization?
So we did take a big hit. Because right now, most of our volunteers are older. So my goal is to try to bring on younger volunteers, right? So that they can support. You learn a lot from an older adult, but bringing on the younger volunteers. So the volunteers, they didn't participate. We were only really stopped doing anything for about 2 weeks. Then everybody came back into the office and, we just masked up, but, we still made our friendly phone calls. It was a time for us to check in and do whatever we could do. We had less volunteers. We are still struggling bringing everybody back on because, when you get out of your routine, you always find something else or whatever does work or doesn't work. So we're struggling bringing all of our volunteers back on. But we took a hit. Our stores took a big hit because naturally we were closed down. But we're doing our best to come back and we're full force ahead.
Great. And then this is Ashley has a great question, and this is not just Partners in Care, but it's all community-based organizations, villages, you name it. She says older adults are becoming more frail, and I guess I would restate that the population of older adults is growing, and therefore the population of frail people is growing too. How is Partners in Care prepared to provide for them? And have you sort of found in your tenure there, Mrs. Smith is really kind of frail, and it's difficult for us to provide rides to her or what have you?
So our model too is we require everybody to be able to advocate for themselves,
Okay.
right? So that's the main thing. We don't offer any type of medical services. We have referral bases that we've built, and we've vetted those referral programs so that we can refer someone to. But most importantly, Steve, is our volunteers are our eyes and ears within that community. And they're very dedicated to our organization, to our mission. And if they notice something is off with Mrs. Jones, whatever it is, they come back, they say, you know what, they just didn't seem like themselves today. So then our member care team will then take that next step to reach out to do more research to see really what is it, because it may be that we can't provide, right? That we need to, direct them to a more medical base, someone with that expertise, right? One thing that I've always found that when I researched, when I took over as this organization, is what are some of the reasons why nonprofits fail? And one of the main reasons is, it's two, but one of the main reasons is that people try to go outside of their mission.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be everything to everybody. We are not, we don't claim to be. We have our lane and we stay in it, right? And that's what, if someone starts to need more than we can give, and right now we struggle because if somebody needs a lot of support, most of our volunteers are older, right? So they can't help you up and down the steps.
Yep.
So that's why we need to make sure that we can take care of them, and we are monitoring it and we refer them.
This is great. And actually talking about, you talked about this earlier, for those that tuned in a little bit late, one of the things that Partners in Care is, they are one of the partners in the Maryland Community for Life program. And one of the reasons that they joined this initiative is because it's in alignment with the services and the support that you provide. So you're still staying in your lane there. And a question came in is, how many participants do you have for that program, the Community for Life? And I'm not sure if that's proprietary or something that you share, but I wanted to ask the question because an audience member asked it.
No, right now we only have a total of 29.
Okay. And that's a new program.
Yeah, it's a new program. We took on that as soon as COVID hit. And, so we're now trying to start up a more, and the overall Community for Life program is making sure, because it's a target audience, is trying to shift right back and forth with what works, what doesn't work, what type of advertising, how do you get the word and the message out?
Mm-hmm.
And I always struggle with not having so many members. And I know one of the founders that I talked to about this, they're like, Mandy, look, we've been doing this, October is 30 years, and we have 2,700 members. And that's basically a free service. It's just an exchange. It took us all that time to build up that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
It's going to take time. You just got to be patient and know that it doesn't happen overnight.
Yep. Let's see. Question came in. Can someone gift their hours to another family member who would benefit more, like a son that volunteers and gives time to a mother and father?
So they can, right? They can do that. But we also want to have a conversation, because if you're trying to keep that person healthy, they need to be engaged. They need to have their value, right? They need to feel like they're connected and a part of the community. So I would say, yes, you can, but I really would say, let's have a conversation to see how can we help them participate, right? I mean, our members write the birthday cards for the month. We have volunteers that pick them up at the office, the cards, take them there, drop them off. They sign them, and then we can have someone come back and pick them up. There's ways to participate and to feel valued.
Great. Okay, Elizabeth has some great questions here, and I'm going to go through a few of them. The first is, what software do you use to track these hours? Because that's got to be kind of confusing, huh?
So it's a proprietary database, and I know that the Silver Spring time banking uses it as well. It's called Our World. It's HOUR World. It is proprietary for time banking.
Okay, I will drop Our World into, yep, I got it here. And also I am dropping in the link to timebanking.org has a software called Community Weaver. So I'm dropping two of those options in there for the software. And then she says, can we use the software for all contributions, including supervising city employees to remove hazards? So I guess if you, I don't know how familiar you are with our world, but could you combine paid and unpaid hours into a platform like that?
Yeah, so the individuals who own this software will build it based on your need.
Cool.
It's quite expensive, but they will build it based on your need. And it's very beneficial to us. And especially when we're communicating with other agencies, county agencies, they always say, well, how do you do this? Because I can run reports on, every type of doctor, if you enter it in, you can run a report on it, where they went, if they went to a cardiologist, if they went to the eye doctor, if they went, who did what, when, and where, and it's easily tracked.
Great. And then she says, why do you call time banking volunteering? Don't all time bankers get one token per hour?
And that's why I said it in the beginning, is every time banking organization that I've researched does things a little differently, right? So it's not, the main description is give an hour, get an hour. But each organization, I think, does it how they need it to fit them. And because of our population, right, we don't do a tit for tat. We just want that exchange. So that's why we say service exchange time banking, right? We want that exchange. So we're not going to say, if you can only do an hour and somebody needs to drive you somewhere that's going to take 3 hours, we're not doing it. You got to earn 2 more hours. Right. We don't do it that way. It's not a tit for tat. It's an exchange.
And when I went to the national conference and networked with a bunch of different time banks, I found almost unanimously all time banks have a portion of their membership that are in deficit hours, that are not necessarily contributing as much as they're taking, but actually, from a banking perspective, the majority of people are banking tons of hours and never utilizing them. Right. Okay. And then she asks, do you network with other time banks across the country or the world?
I have not personally, but I didn't even realize that there was a national conference for time banking. So unfortunately,
hey, I taught you something. That's great.
I haven't had enough time yet to get into that. I just relied on Barbara's education and the organization's foundation. But, I do want to learn more to figure out how we can make it work, how we can promote it more with how it's been so successful for us. So, right. Yeah.
Actually, this is really good. Lisa says, I know a gentleman in Frederick, Maryland, who praised Partners in Care to help him after his wife died. They're doing such great work. I also noticed Partners in Care offers social programs to connect members as well. I know we talked about driving and things like that, but tell us about the social programs.
Yeah, so our member care department is, and we always pull Ride Partners, our volunteer-based program, transportation first, because that's the most need. But our member care department, this organization couldn't run without it either, right? So they vet everyone, and they do everything else besides transportation. They run the handyman programs, but their social learnings are educational things. We do what's called warm houses, right? So we build a community within like a neighborhood or a senior building where our members then come together and learn. They say, well, I need to know about this. And then member care director who will come up with, okay, they need to learn about wills, or they want to learn about whatever, whatever the situation is. We do frauds and scams training. We did a big program for cybersecurity, how to keep yourself safe on the internet, what to look for when, your banks don't call you and ask you for that information. They've done a tablet program where we partnered with the state. We were given 125 free tablets. So we had 125 members that did one-on-one training with a volunteer, especially helpful when COVID hit, that sat down and showed them how to do a tablet. They were given the tablet. We worked with Comcast when it was in their area to allow them to get the essentials program. So it was very inexpensive, showed them how to do telehealth visits. So showed them how to do their Facebook or whatever their connection is to their family and friends to help them to be able to still communicate. So we have craft groups, right, that come in to do crafts. They create these items and then they sell them in the store. So all different types of social activities to keep people engaged.
I love it. I love it. And lots of great comments there. I'm gonna try, we got 10 minutes. I'm gonna try to pick through some of these. I really like Bree Baldwin's question. She says, does anyone know of any Maryland villages that have adopted a time banking model? Our community is starting a village and may be interested in integrating this idea into its development. So I'll sort of pose that to the audience. If anybody knows of villages either in Maryland or nationwide that are utilizing time banking. But Bree, let me share with you how easy this could be for not only your village, but any volunteer organization. And you're literally, most volunteer organizations are leaving this money on the table. More than likely, if you have volunteers, you are coordinating that volunteer service and keeping track of how much the volunteers are helping the organization. You can turn this in to a time banking service exchange model. And my recommendation is, while the software is wonderful, you heard Mandy say it's expensive because it does a lot of work for you, but you could start this with literally keeping tabs in a notebook or on a spreadsheet and proposing to either a small group of members or the whole membership, hey folks, listen to this great talk about service exchange. We thought that we would try to implore this, and here's how it's going to work, and just experiment with it, see how it goes. Again, I'll tell you one of the struggles that you face, and Mandy, I guarantee you've had this too. People that like to volunteer don't want anything. They don't want a service hour. They don't want anything. I do this out of the kindness of their heart. That's one of the struggles that you face. But let me share with you a quote. I'm going to botch this, but this was so powerful when I went to the conference. There was a gentleman from Africa. There's time banks all over the world. And he said, I look around the room and I see a bunch of people that like to help other people, right? And everybody's shaking their heads up and down. And I bet you when somebody says that can I help you, it's hard for you to accept help. And everybody sort of shook their head this way. And he said, you cannot truly be, you cannot reach your capacity of being a volunteer until you have accepted help from other people. And so he said, that's one of the reasons why he loves the time bank concept. I babbled on there, but does anything that I just babbled on to resonate with you, Mandy?
Well, we all struggle with that, right? I always tell everybody, I don't take my own advice, as I'm leaving out of the office at 11:45 at night, right? But So that one big thing comes to mind is I got into huge trouble with most of the volunteers, drivers in Anne Arundel County, because when the gas prices went up, right, I thought, oh my goodness, because our volunteers, we only give mileage reimbursements to the ones that say they want it, right, twice a year. But like I said, the ones that say they want it, right? So when the gas prices went up, I thought, oh my goodness, we got to help our volunteers. They drive so much, who can afford this, blah, 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 blah. So I asked for help. I received a grant. So I said to my finance person, let's just send a check to every driver in wherever county that we got help in. Let's send the check out. Well, oh my goodness. I go, we don't want this. How dare you? We do it because we want to help. This organization needs this money. You keep them. I'm like, oh my goodness, I was trying to do a good thing. I thought I was helping, but no, they are dedicated and, they're just, it's unbelievable with what our volunteers do. I spent probably first 6 to 9 months of this organization crying because I was in awe with what our volunteers do.
I love it. Okay, let's see. Jessica says, is there a network or umbrella of providers like yours where we can identify what other towns and cities are implementing this idea? Jessica, I'm gonna drop a directory of time banks and I'm gonna pull it up on my screen. This is not comprehensive because Partners in Care is not on here, but one of the things that you one of the things that you can see here is that there are time banks, and actually I think they're okay. This is time banks. This is timebanks.org, and they're all over the world there. But but there are great groups just like Partners in Care where you got a gung-ho executive director like Mandy. She doesn't have time to go to national conferences. She's worried about implementing her program. And
I need good help. I need good people. So please, if anybody knows it, look on our website and see. I'm looking for some good help.
Yeah, let me drop the Partners in Care link in there again. And then on LinkedIn, Debbie Howard asks, can you start a time bank from a single company through timebanks.org? More specifically, does Partners in Care set up dedicated time banks for companies in your geographic area? So like you're focused on Maryland, you're in the lane of Maryland right now. So like, let's say that somebody in Ocean City reached out to you and said, I love what you're doing, Mandy. Could we establish something out on the Eastern Shore?
So that's on my bucket list and my goals, right, is to franchise Partners in Care everywhere. So it's definitely, and the founders started putting stuff together, for that, and we can build on it and get it right. But that's what my goal is. So, we would be able to help and assist anyone to be able to start this model.
Great. And if you look in chat, you'll see that Hyperledger, Elizabeth shares Hyperledger as a collaborative platform for remote services to develop open source software to track. So another resource for folks. RH Levin says, Mandy, what's the best way to reach out to you to schedule time to connect?
So my email, let me see.
I'll put it in. The best way is to email you and
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to drop your email in chat, but I'm going to put it on the recording link. Let's see. Barbara Sullivan says, isn't Reston for a lifetime of time bank model? No, Reston, the community that I live in, actually has one of the first time banks that's out there called Useful Service Exchange. And, one of the reasons that we're spotlighting Partners in Care is that it's an organization with an executive director, with revenue streams coming from thrift shops and boutiques, with, contracts with the state of Maryland. this is a sustainable, time-tested, proven infrastructure organization. And I would say, if you look at the Time Bank list, that 90% of them are just volunteer, you know, sort of putting it together. And it's not disparaging a smaller organization, because this concept is fantastic. But it's but I wanted to make sure at this discussion that we spotlighted some really good potential here of where this can go. Okay, and let's see. I think I got through everything, and it's 12:59 East Coast time. So man, Mandy, this was awesome. And I really appreciate you making time for us. I'm delighted that you're carrying the torch for Barbara and Maureen with Partners in Care. And I hope that this discussion inspires some folks in the audience. That was my main goal. Like I said, take this to your village, take this to your neighborhood, and maybe you have 3 best friends that kind of play around with it, or, you know, try to replicate what Partners in Care is doing in your state or your region. I think it's a
Thank
great.
you though, Steve.
concept.
Thank you so much. Because I am not, you know, I struggle with this. I stressed, I didn't play. I'm not a in the front of the audience, you know, the center of attention kind of person. I'm a doer, right? I'm right there with you, scrubbing the floors or doing whatever, but I am passionate about who we are, what we do. I'm honored and blessed to be able to be a part of this phenomenal organization. It did take those 3 ladies a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get it right. So it is right. The foundation was right when I took it over. So I can't be, you know, I can't take credit for any of that. So I'm just honored and blessed to be able to grow it and take it to its next generation.
I love it. Thanks so much. And thanks to all of you for your engaging, thought-provoking questions and comments. And we'll see you on the next one. And I'm going to check in with you, Mandy, because I can see us doing this on a regular basis to remind people of this concept.
Please do. And when you know of exciting conferences, say, hey, Mandy, I know you don't have time to
Are you
learn.
going to the
Here's
time?
one.
Yeah, we can
Maybe
go
you
together.
should think about it. Yeah.
I'd go back to that conference in a heartbeat. Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to you all later.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Be safe.